Welcome to Fly on the Wall. We are your hosts. I am Dr. Jonathan Matthias Lassiter.
And I am Marquita Moten.
So, who the hell are we?
I am a master's level therapist with a degree in clinical mental health.
Okay.
I am a business owner, healer, seer, doer, lover, friend, all of that.
All of the above. A phenomenal woman. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, because I'm a woman.
Phenomenally.
Phenomenal woman. That's me. Yeah.
So I am a licensed clinical psychologist, professor, co-editor of award-winning book, and soon to be author of a New York Times bestseller book. I'm already claiming it.
Okay.
Speaking it forth. The no-mo.
Amen.
Power.
Mm-hmm.
From Africa. The band too. Okay? Anyway.
You're so funny.
That's what I am today. So what we talking about, Keita?
Well, you told me that we're going to talk about insecurities today. So let's talk about insecurities. And I guess we can talk about how we ourselves have dealt with insecurities and continue to manage our own insecurities, and see how that might help some people.
Well, you mentioned, we were discussing what we were going to talk about. You mentioned insecurity. And I said, I mean, who can't relate to that? I know there was a time when I was incredibly insecure. I think when I look back over my life sometimes, I think about where God brought me from, mighty long way.
Why was I just about to sing that song? As I look back over my life, I can see how the Lord keeps blessing me.
I'm on the church dance team.
Okay, I know, honey.
A little routine.
Yes. Go on and hit him with the praise dance.
So you always had to have the prayer hands.
Yes. And the spirit fingers. And I was in the choir.
It shows. So, I think I was incredibly insecure as an adolescent and as an early adult. I mean, back when you knew me, that was the height of my insecurity.
Mm-hmm.
When we first met in college. And, I think about the sort of insecurity that I had came from this sense that the core of me, something was wrong with the core of me. And I just could not get it right in any circumstance. Except academic. That was like the only little thing I had was I was smart and I made good grades. But everywhere else, it was like, you're not, man enough. You're not athletic enough. You talk funny. You're not cool enough. You're not interesting enough. You're not cute enough. So all of these things about who I was at the core was really what was driving my insecurity.
Mm-hmm.
And even after I got over that sort of thing, it was still sort of like, whether you're too this or you're too that, like you're too bougie or you think too highly of yourself. And I think it was through a process of really owning it that the insecurity dissipated.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was able to own that, no, I'm and I don't mean this word in any derogatory way, but in the way, but this is the word that I heard, don't be a punk, don't be a sissy. And when I own, no, you're a sissy. Like, it was like, okay, I don't have to be insecure about it anymore. I don't have to be ashamed of it anymore because it is what it is, and it's not a bad thing.
Right.
Only when I was trying to run from it that it was a bad thing and it was something to hide. But when I owned it, it was like, no, this is part of who you are, and who you are is great. Who you are is a whole person, and this is part of who you are. It's not the totality of who you are, but it's part of who you are. Is a very important part of who you are that deserves to be embraced. And similarly, when I remember, I remember talking to my therapist one time. I was like, my friends call me bougie, like, and he was like, "So what if you are bougie?" And I was like, "Yeah, but I can't." He's like, "Yeah, so what if you are bougie? Then you're bougie." And I was just like, "I'm bougie," and then just like all these things, But for me, the core, or say the central way that I was able to move past them was through acceptance. All those
Mm,
things that people had meant for my harm,
mm,
I used it for my good, and to say, no, this is more the complexity of who you are.
yeah. You brought up so many things for me, like just in that brief description of this little pinch of your journey. It's amazing to me how we use such harsh language against ourselves. Like we spend so much time in our heads telling ourselves all these things that we're not, or all these things that we're not enough of, or too much of, that are all negative. And it brings me back to what is important to me, which is what I mentioned before. If the creator wouldn't say it to me, then what I look like saying it to myself. And that's something that I have to come back to time and time again, because those of us who are high achievers also tend to we have high standards for other people, but our standards for ourselves are just so off the charts. And anything short of that, or even just meeting it, it's hard to celebrate yourself and appreciate all that you've accomplished, appreciate the wholeness, the totality of who you are. And I think it's very important for all of us to be more compassionate with ourselves. It's just so crazy. So that's one thing that you made me think of. But also what you said made me think about how the most distressing, well, this is what I listened to you, and what it brought me to was the distress that is most harmful within oneself is when you're not living your truth. And that is something that is paramount for me, even now. Like, even now, I'm managing insecurities. I had different insecurities growing up, and now I am managing insecurities in the form of self doubt when it comes to my business, and when it comes to living my truth in my business. Of course, we know there are no accidents. So there's no accident that we're talking about this today, because obviously Spirit wanted me to verbalize it, get it out. So I told you that I plan on talking about tarot cards and tarot reading and stuff like that on my Instagram live tomorrow. And something that I have been struggling with is one of my followers sent me a message, because I have two pages. I have my personal page and then my business page. Sent me a message and basically told me that they were going to unfollow my business page because they don't believe in tarot cards, and what they said was that the only spirit they believe in is the spirit of Jesus Christ. And so that bothered me, for one, because it was assuming that there was something other than the creator that I am worshiping, which is just false. Um, while also assuming that their particular religious belief was the only way of being. And I recognize that as a narrow minded individual. But it bothered me because I don't like people assuming who I am. and and but it also made me, the insecurity came up for me because I was like, wow, do I have other followers who, love my body butters and love my products, but may have an issue with the fact, with my spiritual work,
Mm-hmm.
with me reading tarot cards and doing sacred energy work and stuff like that. And so, what just really helped me, I had a light bulb moment while you were speaking, because it all goes back to just living my truth and being the total honest version of who I am. And my truth is that God has given me an expanded perspective on what it means to connect to spirit and what it means to be one with everyone else on this planet and this planet itself, and what it means to be true to me. And so being true to me requires me to make my body butters and bless them in the way that I do. It requires me to do sacred energy work. It requires me to read tarot cards because those are gifts that I have been given by the divine. It requires me to be all of what God created me to be. And in being that, there is no shame. And it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks about it, because I have to be accountable for what I've done with what God gave me, not them. And so for me to listen to somebody else, like you said, that which was meant for harm or whatever, even though it may have been unknowingly by that person, still to just feel like you have the right to tell somebody that what they believe in is wrong in any way, shape, or form is wrong. It's an imposition upon their beingness. And I personally think that that is wrong. So it's just a matter of me reminding myself not to doubt the conversations that I have had with spirit, or doubt the awareness that I have of myself from God, because all of us are divinely inspired, and being divinely inspired to act in a way that is healing for myself and for others, that can't be anything other than glorious. So I'm not going to pretend that it is anything other than glorious.
Yeah, yeah, and and that's hard for a lot of people.
Yes,
It's been
it
hard.
is hard.
It's been hard for me, and as well, when it comes to like choosing yourself and choosing the vision and the purpose that Spirit has given you over the very real possibility that there will be people who turn away from you or won't support you or try to harm you
Hmm.
because they don't understand it, right? Um, yeah, when I heard you talk about the person that said they're not going to follow you because their own spirit they believe in Jesus Christ, so on and so forth. And I was thinking about when I first started. It made me think about when I first started doing public speaking, and I was like, "Oh, I don't like my voice. I sound too gay. I sound too nerdy." And then, Brian was like, "But they know that when they hire you."
Mm.
It's like, and so something said, "Yeah, like if they're hiring you, then they're hiring a black gay nerd, like, and that's what they want, and that's what you give them." And so it's
Hmm.
the same thing, right, with you. Like when I hear you talk, I'm like, your gift will make room for you.
Mm.
And that's why we come to
Hmm.
Marquita Moten. It's for the connect. It's for the spirituality. So that person, they opted out. They'll move on. It ain't for them. They're not ready
Hmm.
for that abundance. They're not ready for that um that infinity, right? They're not ready for that They're stuck in the finite. Not saying
Yeah.
there's anything wrong with being Christian, but
Right.
any religion is just one slice of an entire picture.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So they're not ready for it, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And everyone is not going to be ready. Everyone's not going to go with us. But when you think about the insecurity, oftentimes that insecurity is because people have tried to
Squeeze you.
squeeze and
Hmm.
crush us into their finite version of reality. And
Hmm.
oftentimes, our own liberation comes with rejecting that box and
Hmm.
owning what is there, whether it fits into their box or not.
Yes, that's a whole word right there. And you know what? The real breaking free is releasing that box within yourself. Because I always, anytime I feel triggered by something, right? I ask myself, what about that bothered me? And I'm asking myself that because I recognize that there's some portion of me, there's some heart space, there's some tender area within me that carries some kind of belief in unworthiness or whatever their message implied about me. There's some agreement within me
We
that
have
I have
butterflies.
to dig out. Yeah, that I have to dig out. We all have these confines in which we were raised, right? And to be the one or one of the ones in your family to say, there's more than this. I know it. And to only have your intuition to lean on in making that assertion, that can be a very lonely place, like you said. And so to get beyond that loneliness, it's helpful to just lean further into you. Like you said, when you got to the point where you were like, well, I'm bougie. And that's okay, because whoever said that that was wrong, who painted the picture for you that that was a negative thing to be, and then you, although you like all these wonderful, luxurious things, you felt the confines of the negative box that they had built for you because they implanted that in you. So then you had a heart space or whatever that associated bougie with, being whatever, someone undesirable.
Right.
And so when you were able to let that go, then it was just like, yeah, this is who I am. And then everything just flows better.
Exactly. Exactly. We could talk about this forever as because there's always so much to unpack and we never have enough time.
Right.
I want us to get into our cannon fire for today.
Okay.
Cannon fire is to help people build their canon of books to fortify themselves. And so, would you like to go first, or would you like me to go
You can
first?
go first.
Okay. So, the book that I have been reading lately uh, is the Mindful Self Compassion Workbook. The
Mm,
Mindful Self Compassion Workbook, and it's by Kristin Neff and Christopher Germer. And both of these are psychologists, and it's really all about how to cultivate self compassion. So we were just talking about the insecurity, and a lot of those insecurities again due to those confines, and those confines that we start to believe ourselves, and we start to tell ourselves something's wrong with you. You're right, something's wrong with you, you know.
mhm,
And self-compassion is really about treating ourselves with grace. It's not about letting ourselves off the hook per se. It's not about not challenging ourselves to continue to grow and heal,
mhm,
but it's about doing so with grace. And I've been using this for myself, but also with my patients. And one of the exercises, and then they have It's called. Oh God, I knew this was gonna happen as soon as I want to call on it. But it's a particular exercise where it's about helping one come into one's body, and really relax
Oh,
one.
like an integration.
Yeah, and then so it starts off at the body, at physical sensations, and literally physically relaxing. Then starting off, then moving to the emotion, and really understanding one's emotions, and then allowing oneself to be in that place. So it's something soothe, something allow, and I'm blanking on the thing in the middle. But
Mm.
I've been finding it so helpful personally and with my patients. So I totally recommend this book, The Mindful Self Compassion Workbook. So what do you have for us?
My book for this week, that sounds like a great book actually. But I have The Invitation by Orion Mountain Dreamer. And it's funny we both chose books that are kind of in a similar vein, even though that wasn't planned. This
Uh-huh.
book is also about developing self awareness and compassion, and it does it through different meditations, affirmations, there are writing prompts, there, and it does it by subject. So it addresses fear, sorrow, joy, betrayal, failure, commitment, all of those things. And so it breaks it down and basically gives you an assignment to address each issue individually. But of course, all of them are helpful for addressing the broader range of things that we encounter in life.
I love it. I love it. I'm gonna. I don't have that book. I'm gonna go out and get that book because I love writing prompts and journaling things like that. So I'm gonna go out and get that book. So that's our cannon fire for
Mhm.
today. Do we want to do a replay? How do we want to? What are the takeaways we want to leave folks with?
I think the takeaways from today are definitely to approach yourself with grace and compassion, to be aware that no one else will understand your journey. Your journey is your own, and that's okay. Having differences of opinion, having different religious views, having different spiritual perspectives, it's okay. And recognizing what confines have been given to you that you may benefit from breaking free of.
And I would just add to that, that one of the first steps towards healing is accepting ourselves.
Hmm.
That when we accept, the things that people have said about us that they may seem a negative, but when we start to accept that without judgment, then we can start to break free from those confines. And the last thing I'll say as a takeaway is everyone's not going to get there with us, and that's okay.
Hmm.
They're just not.
It's okay.
It's okay. But that does not mean that we give up on our purpose and the vision that spirit and our gods and our ancestors have given us. Because
Absolutely.
that has to remain central to who we are. That's why we're here.
Absolutely.
Well, as always, it's just such a blessing to be in conversation with you, and
Likewise.
I leave this conversation feeling fortified
Hmm.
with so much gratitude and really centered. And thank you for that.
Thank you. I feel very relaxed and reaffirmed.
Good. Well, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, and share it with your mama and them, and your cousin and them, and all of them,
Because they need it.
because they need it. And watch
Yep.
it 2, 3, 4 times. Okay. All right. See you next time. Love you, Keto.
Love you too. Bye bye.